MOOPs.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of MOOPs TV. I'm joined today by Weisi Kang. I'm excited for you all to hear from her today. Without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right in. And Weisi, if you wanted to start with some introductions, who are you and where do you currently work?
Awesome. Hi, I'm Weisi. I currently work in marketing operations in-house, and I focus specifically on data and reporting. So all the ways that data come in, how it gets transformed, it's how it's used specifically for marketing team reporting.
Awesome. A little bit more about your background. How long have you been in the marketing revenue ops space?
I've been in marketing operations for almost 8 years. It feels both like a lot of time and not a lot of time. So, yeah.
Awesome. 8 years going off script here, but probably enough time to work on some of the tools before like the big four right now. So like pre-Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, HubSpot, yes or no?
No. I started on Marketo and I've consistently been on Marketo ever since. So we'll see. We'll see what happens after.
Perfect. I was going to say you bleed purple, but I can't really say that after the last 10 months when it's no longer purple. Wait, so at what point in your career did the mistake we're going to chat about today happen?
So the MOOPs I made was very, very early on in my career. I was probably about a month into my role there at the time. And it was also about a month into just marketing operations more generally. So it was a very startling and traumatic way to get started, but definitely a lot of learning. So
I love it. Nothing like something kind of horrifying right at the beginning of a career transition to make you question like your whole reality.
Yep.
Awesome. So kind of getting into the meat, what were you trying to do?
So I was trying to set up an A/B test for an email, and this was right around the time, or maybe right before the time, that email send programs could do A/B tests on their own, like you just said it in the control panel, basically. I was doing this in Marketo, and so there were a lot of articles already out that were teaching you basically how to set up an A/B test using different smart campaign flows and setting up 2 different emails, all that stuff. So I was basically trying to break up our email send list into 2 kind of randomized static lists to use that in the email send smart campaign later on.
Awesome. So you've already answered my next question, which is what systems? So Marketo, and I love the nugget that it was like pre-native A/B test functionality, and having to do it all via smart campaigns, because I have some ideas of where this is going based on that. And I'm really curious to see if I'm right. Did you have to do, I guess for my own, like random sample in the list split campaign, or could they random sample in the email send at that point, or why were you trying to break them into lists?
I don't remember why we wanted to just like break them up into 2 lists. I think it was probably just like the extra caution of seeing the 2 different lists with 2 different numbers of people, and half of them go here and half of them go here, and just to double check that, I'm pretty sure. And so at the time, like neither of us trusted random sample. We didn't know what that was, and we didn't know that maybe at the time A/B testing in email programs was a thing, but like not too many people were using it. And so we were just like, okay, this is our first like big A/B test. Like let's just be extra careful and try to split things up visually.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I've seen and worked with some clients who do the same thing. They like to see the number or the count, or have a good sense of kind of what's happening before they hit the button.
Yep.
So you get in your smart campaign, you split everyone into lists, you're doing your A/B test. What exactly happened?
Yeah. So we were basically, so again, month into the job, my manager at the time, he knows who he is. He was going to Tahoe, which at the time I guess had really bad, or wherever he was going had really bad internet. And so, in order to check that the SMART campaign ran to split these people up into the list, he graciously was able to log on while he was driving up there, or maybe tethered to his phone or something like that. So came back, looked at the logic, was looking at, okay, random sample, 50% go to this list, the rest go to this other list. And ironically, we were looking at it, we're like, wow, we did a really good job, like so detail oriented, like very, set up a lot of like different types of logic that neither of us had done before. It was great. And so from there, we were like, okay, this looks good. Let's just run it. The only thing that we were trying to do was split this list into two lists. What neither of us remembered, or what we both forgot, was that adding someone to a list at the time in that system was a really big deal. It was like one of those like a target account list situations. If it wasn't named like an event list, it would basically send out an email alert to people on sales ops, people on marketing ops, people like the head of marketing at the time. And so because this list wasn't like any other list that we had ever uploaded or ever attempted to add people to, our Marketo instance thought that this was a big deal and started firing off email alerts for every single person that was added to a list.
Oh no.
And it was very, very chaotic.
How many people were on your list or list?
It was, the total list was about 60,000 people. And so it was 60,000 email alerts basically going out to this just list of people.
Oh. I've heard some alert horror stories. 60,000 might be the new record number of internal alerts that I've heard set on accident. My next question is, who noticed it? And it sounds like pretty much everyone noticed it.
So basically, I think it's funny. Basically, everyone except for me and my manager noticed, because I was blissfully unaware, because I was not on these email alerts. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that this had just set off a chain reaction of things. My manager was probably without email, turned off his email, what have you. And so maybe like 30 or 40 minutes later, I had a sales ops colleague walk over to my desk and she goes, hey, I'm getting all of these emails from Marketo. Like, did you guys like send something today? Like, we didn't really know what was going on. And I was like, that's weird. Like, there were no email sends for today. Like, I don't know what that is. Like, maybe let's contact Marketo support. I don't know what's going on. So then finally, maybe like 10, 15 minutes later, IT comes back to my desk and is like, hey, these emails are coming from Marketo. Can you please look into this and like figure out what's going on? And then suddenly you can hear the head of marketing from her office is like, why am I getting so many email alerts? I can't even access my inbox anymore because more email alerts just start coming in. And so,
oh no.
So I go from blissfully unaware to like sinking feeling in your chest and in the pit of your stomach, just like, what just happened?
With a manager who sounds like he's out of pocket at this point.
Yeah.
Oh man, I feel for you. So it sounds like obviously at this point the situation is pretty public, right? IT's involved, sales ops is involved, the head of marketing is involved. You're maybe realizing at this point that it wasn't Marketo support related, but what kind of steps did you take at this point to remedy and diagnose what had actually happened?
Yeah. So what I ended up doing, I didn't know what to do. I ended up just calling my manager. I'm like, this feels like an emergency that like I can call you for. And so he basically took one look at the email, knew immediately what was happening because he was, obviously in the system for a while. He knew immediately what was happening and just like I will never forget, in the calmest voice and the calmest demeanor, was like, okay, like let's pull the kill switch. We'll figure it out. Like he's probably like, just got to his cabin in Tahoe's, like tethered to his phone, trying to, stop the campaign, abort the campaign, do all of this stuff. And I cannot even express to you, in the most calm manner ever, walked me through the different ways, here's how you abort a campaign. This is why this happened. This is what we need to look for. This is actually what this alert is for. So let's turn this off too and do all of these things. And was gracious enough to basically come out of PTO to help kind of resolve this issue and explain to me along the way, like, this is exactly what happened, and how we could prevent it in the future.
Love a level head in what feels like a panic moment at that point.
Yes,
I think that's
absolutely.
a really impressive skill set. Marketo had a board campaign 8 years ago.
I think so. Yeah, I remember it was either they had it or it was like a treasure chest type of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, he was like, this is the kill switch. Like, this is what we do. I'm like, okay.
I love it. I think it sounds like he was able to step in and help a ton, but also be really educational while doing it. And I think that's an awesome manager. So you've got the kill switch, you stopped the alerts at this point, but it sounds like a decent number had gone out. What did you do at some point to acknowledge with the team that had received the alerts?
Yeah. So from that point forward, we were just kind of evaluating, like, okay, are these email alerts actually necessary? Do we, do we need to be alerted every time someone gets added to this type of list? What do we want to do there? And I think just simplifying a lot of those email alerts more broadly was great for us. And I think just moving forward, as we work together to, revamp lead funnel and things like that. And people wanted all different types of alerts, stopping to say, like, hey, do we actually need this, or can you run a report? Do we actually need an alert every single time someone comes in, or can you, refer to something else? So it just really, really helped us pause and be able to think about, is something actually necessary, or can we figure out a different way to do it? Yeah.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful learning. Alerts seem like an easy default for a lot of things, but I think being able to take a step back, having had that experience, and ask stakeholders, like, what are you actually trying to get out of this? Can I deliver that in a more succinct manner, is a really good, a hallmark of a really good ops person, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it turns out people don't like reading email alerts. Like, they'll read the first couple, and then afterwards it's like, oh, great, another email alert. Like, did we need that? Probably not.
Surprise, everyone already has too much email, and they just get lost in the shuffle. I never would have guessed. So obviously some learnings around better ways to provide information to stakeholders. Anything else you learned in the remediation process that you want to share?
Yeah, I think just the idea of like a campaign execution, like some sort of abort process or anything like that. It's something that you can just turn off to prevent any sort of like future damage that you do. But also I think just I've become ever so sensitive to, fields that are used by certain processes, or what actions will kick off other processes. And so even to this day, we're running a process that I know very well, but okay, let's just double check, where is this field being used? What smart campaign is running? What's going to, be the next few steps? How can I make sure that this is actually what we want to do? And so, in that situation, maybe add to list, that would have been a little bit harder to figure out like where exactly add to list was being used. But just, coming into new Marketo instances, thinking about, okay, let's just poke around in each of the operational folders. Let's see what's going on. Let's, follow a typical lead and see, what values change, what lists they get added to, all of that stuff. And just make sure that you have a really clear understanding of what's going on in the background, so that that if something does happen, you can kind of backtrack to where and why and figure it out that way versus kind of just being like, I don't know what's going on.
I love that. I think sometimes my team thinks I'm crazy because I mean, I've been in the current instance I'm in for a year now, but even if I'm doing something in that instance that I haven't done before, I'm like, let's do 5 people. Let's do 10 people. Like, it's going to be a larger batch type of thing. You know, I think recently we had a kind of import situation where I was like, okay, here's our cleanup steps. Let's try it with, 1% of the list. And then assuming that all goes well, we can kind of go from there. So I'm a big fan of like, obviously understanding the instance and documenting and having a good idea of what kicks off what, but something you're doing for the first time, running a test batch. So like you're somebody's fairy godmother or mentor and they make a similar mistake. What advice would you give to them? They call you up on the phone and it's kind of same thing. What's your advice there?
The manager that I had, and I stressed that he was so calm in this situation because I think in a situation like that, sometimes the only thing you can do is just to take a deep breath and kind of use the like adrenaline or whatever is rushing through your body at the time to kind of make very like clear and deliberate choices. Like he had a choice to either, be calm about the situation. He could have also been angry that, neither of us had thought to look up something like this. But instead he chose to be very level-headed and just to be very calm about the situation. I think that ultimately passes on to other people who maybe are feeling, differently about the situation and kind of just keeps an even temper in the room. And ultimately, I think, being a little bit more even tempered, especially in an emergency situation, makes for a little bit better decision making, making very deliberate choices, doing 1 step instead of 5 to get something remediated. So that's definitely really, really important.
I love that. If those of you watching haven't watched Mike's episode, he panic reacted to a MOOPs and caused another MOOPs in his episode where sent out the wrong email and then the oops email had the wrong link. So I think like as terrifying as it sounds, and then like trying to be calm can really help the situation. Mm-hmm. Kind of last question here. Any other advice, kind of mistake related or otherwise, that you have for your fellow marketing and revenue ops professionals?
I think, this series has generally just made me think more about all of the things. It made me appreciate a lot of the things that we do and a lot of the things that we can automate, but it also kind of highlights a lot of places where there are potentially unintended consequences. And so thinking about ways to alert ourselves or run reports to give ourselves indications of when something could be going wrong before someone points it out to you, or, reports or alerts that help you prevent these kinds of issues in the future. Obviously things happen, stuff happens all the time in all of our systems, but anything that we can do to kind of stay ahead of it, just a little bit even, is definitely useful. So
I have a handful of those in my system too. The like, is something mismatched here? Type of reports and alerts that I try and check, so that somebody else isn't the one pointing it out. I think that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to share with our audience?
This is kind of like a tangent to the chaos of that day. But that day, it was either right before or right after kind of the whole situation was finally like, things had settled, email alerts stopped coming in, all of that stuff.
How long were they rolling in for?
Maybe like 30 minutes to an hour. It was okay. A lot. They just kept coming in.
That's honestly less time than I thought you were going to say.
It might have been longer. It felt longer. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But the kind of just in the midst / at the end of all of that chaos, it happened to, I guess, be my near my birthday. And so I had a lot of coworkers come to my desk with a cake and like to surprise me, like, oh, happy birthday, as I'm in this middle of this like meltdown of like, am I gonna lose my job? Like everyone's so mad at me. I don't understand what's going on. And like suddenly there's this cake. Like what's happening? Sensory overload.
Wow. Yeah. It's one of those days you go home at the end and you just are like, I'm going to bed now.
Yep.
That's it. I'm done.
Yep.
Well, wow. I feel like we went on a journey with that one. I think
it was very chaotic.
Yeah, I've been there, not to the 60,000. Mine was like a couple thousand. And I know we've got some other recorded ones, and some people have shared similar stories with me. So this is, I think, probably one of the most common scenarios I've seen is like, obviously the email you sent is totally messed up is a big one, but I inadvertently alerted a whole bunch of people internally is,
yeah,
you're in good company.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you so much, Weisi, for coming on and chatting with us. I learned a lot. I had a great time chatting with you and appreciate it.
Of course, this is so fun.
MOOPs.
Hi, I'm MH Lines. Over the course of my career, I've hired more than 100 marketing operations professionals. One of my favorite interview questions to see if someone's really been in the marketing operations trenches is to ask them about their biggest marketing operations fail. Whether it's from complexity, simple human error, or technology outages, mistakes happen to every single one of us, and they happen a lot more than we want to admit. That's actually the reason I founded Stack Moxie. We help people find problems and fix them faster and make sure they never come back. It's also the reason the team at Stack Moxie and I are really excited and proud to be a sponsor of MOOPs TV by MOOPs. I love that we can come together as a community and get better together as a community.
It might seem counterintuitive, but a failure, especially on a big stage, is an incredible opportunity for you to showcase your leadership chops. I hope you enjoy MOOPs TV.